Hey folks, it's Shadow Blizzard 3000 here. As you can see, I again am flying solo for this one. I tried to get Drak to come along to see this with me. He did not want to. Tried as I might. I begged, I pleaded, and did everything under the sun. He was, of course, willing to even put it into the push for 100 subscribers campaign that we're running right now. I'll talk about that at the end. But I didn't really want to wait too long to see this because it's very close to Christmas. It's already busy enough, and the sooner I could get out to see this, the better I felt I'd be. So, yep, here I am. I'm solo, so I just want you all to please say it with me and spam him with this. He wouldn't come see the movie with me, so y'all dare me apart, Drak! Okay, I had to do that. That's the most Tommy Wiseau you're gonna get. Maybe. So yes, as the title says, I did just see the room. I did see not the room. I saw the movie, The Disaster Artist, which is about the making of The Room, the cult Tommy Wiseau film that everybody knows because of how infamously terrible it is. So bad it's good. And what a story it was. Really, really, what a story it was. You know, Tommy Wiseau was right when he said, "What a funny story, Mark." That's two. But it really was a crazy story. This is a case where truth is indeed very much stranger than fiction here. Alright, so of course, quick summary. As I mentioned, this is all about the making of Tommy Wiseau's The Room. It starts out years before the movie is actually getting made, where Dave Franco's character, Greg, I don't actually know his last name. They don't list the names here. The full names here, weirdly enough. But it's right when they meet each other. They're both aspiring young actors living in San Francisco. They move to LA together and, you know, go out for audition after audition, and each time they fail, and then you know, Tommy Wiseau gets the brilliant idea. It's like, nobody's in Hollywood's gonna give me a job. I'm gonna make a job, damn it. I'm gonna make my own movie. And craziness ensues from there. It's all right. It went apparently the movie went way over budget, way over schedule, if there ever was a budget, because that's the weird thing about that this movie points out is Tommy Wiseau apparently had money to spend like nobody's business. Nobody knows where it came from. Who knows? Maybe somewhere it's written, but the movie played it ambiguous for reasons. But I've not read the book that this is based on, by the way. Yes, it is. It is based on a book. Yeah, by Greg Sestero and Tom Bissell. So it's based on a book, and it's directed by James Franco. It's written by a couple other screenwriters, so you probably won't get anything of James Franco's usual brand of comedy beyond what he might bring as a director. And like I said, it was a stranger than fiction movie in this case. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and everything else in between. So what's good about the movie? Everybody's acting is pretty on par. I mean, you got Dave Franco. I'm presuming that's James Franco's brother. I'm not really going to look it up right now. But Dave Franco is a pretty good actor here. This is the first movie I've seen him in personally. I'm sure he's done other stuff, but I think he's actually pretty good. James Franco does a pretty good Tommy Wiseau. He really kind of gets the crazy, weird mannerisms of Tommy Wiseau down, you know, or at least the Tommy Wiseau we see on screen in The Room, you know, the weird kind of chortles he makes, the ha ha ha, and, you know, he gets the accent down, but everybody loves to do the accent, so it's not hard. And, of course, nobody knows where Tommy Wiseau is from, and nobody knows how old he is. Yes, everybody's starting to speculate that he's Polish, but unfortunately, I don't think we have any legitimate proof of that just yet. I don't know. This is something I've been hearing, that he's apparently Polish, but he just claims he's from New Orleans. You have Seth Rogen in the cast as a guy named Sandy, who was a script supervisor and kind of did some of the extra directing, co-directing of the film. You have a pretty solid cast around, and you even have cameos from Bryan Cranston, who's just playing himself, because apparently Greg was at some point offered a chance to appear on Malcolm in the Middle, an episode that Bryan Cranston himself was directing. And of course, Tommy Wiseau was not having any of it. It was not having any of it. It's like, no, Greg, you have to stay here. You owe me your life, Greg. Yeah, it's so crazy. And fortunately, Greg turned it down. But I think he's doing okay because it sounds like he's got a pretty regular career in theater. So, what's Tommy Wiseau done besides be Tommy Wiseau? So, other weird cameos in the movie. The beginning of the movie opens up with like these people, these talking heads. I don't know who any of them are except for one, and I'll get to that. The movie opens with all these people talking about this is like truly the greatest movie ever made. Don't stroke the guy's ego, guys. He got real lucky and made a fluke so bad it's a good movie. So you have all these talking heads. They're talking about how great this movie is, and one among them is actually J.J. Abrams of all people. J.J. Abrams. It's so random. I don't get it. Oh, and Kevin Smith is in there too. Kevin Smith and J.J. Abrams, and they're all just. It's like just a bunch of cut to interviews about how really surreal and great this movie is. So I guess now that J.J. Abrams appeared in this movie, we can confirm Tommy Wiseau will indeed get that role in the next Star Wars movie that he wants. So I think another positive of this movie is it actually is legitimately funny. It's not just funny because they are recreating select scenes of the room. It actually is funny just because of the way Franco plays Tommy Wiseau as the real person, Tommy Wiseau, not just as the person that we see in the room, and just the interactions he has with Greg, with that character, with Frank, the other Franco's character. It's sort of like that's kind of weird about this movie. It's like I don't know how true this is, if this was played up for the movie, if this is my own imagination, or it's almost kind of like Tommy Wiseau kind of has a bromance going with Greg. Kind of like he's a like he. I mean, by no means, Greg is not. At least I don't think anyway. I don't know him in real life, but he's not a homosexual. It seems like because he definitely has a girlfriend through the course of the movie. They break up at the end. But it feels really like Tommy had a bit of a thing for Greg. And who knows if that's true or if Tommy just was emotionally dependent on Greg. Who really knows? But Tommy was so himself. And I doubt he'll say what was really going on there. But seeing the two just interact with each other, especially, is really good. I mean, they're really good together on screen. If they're brothers, then it totally makes sense. They've spent their whole lives together, but it's a really good screen combination. So the movie is actually pretty funny. I mean, again, not just because they recreate the scenes, which, by the way, is hilarious. It's comic gold there because they recreate them pretty well, actually. And it's nuts of how weird Tommy Wiseau was making this movie. It's gonna really, I think, blow your mind. So I think that's really gonna kind of sum up all the positives of the movie. Were there really a lot of negatives? I don't think so. I'm not saying the movie's a gem and it's golden, it's perfect, but off the top of my head, I can't think of too much really wrong with this movie, too much that I can even nitpick right away. Other than I really did not need to see James Franco's bare ass, but let's face it, that's what's going to happen because we have to recreate the sex scenes from the room. And because, again, I think the lack of information might bug some people, but that's just the nature of the beast because, as the movie says itself, apparently nobody knows where Tommy Wiseau got his money, how old he is, or where he's from. It's the great three mysteries surrounding this movie. There's really nothing too much I can really harp on that's bad in this movie. Some of the shaky cam at the start of the movie bugged me a little. They definitely dialed it back at least. I mean, I really, really hate movies that are shot entirely freehand or shot entirely handheld. It bugs the crap out of me. I'm glad they didn't do it throughout this entire movie. I was really, really worried when the first scene started because it was all handheld free cam. And I hate when directors do it. It's really annoying. That's why I won't watch Catherine Bigelow movies anymore. But they dialed it back, thankfully, so not too much wrong there. I suppose in just the scheme of things, it seemed like some of the weird scenes were shot in weird places that were obviously not. I don't know, because they shot the whole movie in a soundstage, which both surprises me but doesn't, because looking at the room, it always looked like the backgrounds were like matte paintings or green screened in there, right? But I always figured this is probably a minuscule like independent film made on like a few $1,000,000, which again, a few million sounds like a lot of money, but in movie making that's pretty paltry. So that's really gonna, I think, do it here for The Disaster Artist. It's a really good movie. I really did enjoy it. It is definitely the truth is stranger than fiction. Truth is very much stranger than fiction here with the making of The Room. And apparently even behind the scenes this movie's kind of interesting because James Franco supposedly was in character while directing the movie, which just makes me think it's all weird. And I highly recommend it if you've seen The Room, or you've only seen like the various critics that take on The Room to, dissect it and pull it apart. See the movie at least. It's a fascinating story about Tommy Wiseau making his disaster piece, The Room. There's not much more that can be said than that. This is a true movie. You gotta see it to believe it. And I enjoyed it. It was funny, and it was very interesting and kind of enlightening too, if you can believe that, for a movie like this. So I have to give my final score. The Room gets a solid 8 out of 10 for me on the Drak and Shadow rating scale, which has no official scale because we just rate however we feel at the time. But I can say it's a solid 8. B plus in my book. Nothing too... Like I said, there's really nothing too wrong with it. It's remarkable in the fact it's about one of the most weird indie films ever made. And it's... I guess in that downside, it's only unremarkable because of that. I don't know. It's weird to not have like nitpicks or critiques, but also not give this movie a complete perfect. I don't know. Maybe it's even a 9 or a 10. I enjoyed it either way. I got my time's worth and I got my money's worth out of it. So absolutely go see it. But as I think there's supposedly like IMAX screenings of this. Don't waste your money and see it in IMAX. You'll be fine with just any standard matinee fee. Most of the time I recommend matinee. I'm kind of boring like that, but theater going is expensive. If you don't want to see it in the theaters, then I'm sure it'll be on Blu-ray soon, but the movie's actually doing fairly well for itself, box office-wise. I think its opening weekend, it already pulled in a solid $1 million. Well, not the opening weekend, but like a small limited opening run. It already pulled in a solid $1 million for very few theaters, which is impressive for an R-rated movie these days. If you can believe that. That's impressive for an R-rated movie today. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for this Drak and Shadow vlog of The Disaster Artist. Y'all tearing me apart, Lisa. Okay, I had to get in one more. And that's gonna wrap it up. Sorry I had to go solo on this. I'm not particularly interesting when I don't have Drak to bounce off of, but he didn't want to come see the movie with me, and he made me a sad panda at the end. But that's not all. I want to once again remind you that we are pushing hard for 100 subscribers on the Drak and Shadow channel. So please, guys, please do what you can and see if we can get ourselves pushed over to 100, because as part of our campaign push, we are taking immediate requests, and we're going to have an open vote when it's all done. We're still fine-tuning the list and everything, but who knows, you can even add this to make Drak go see this. He did say he would maybe consider it if we got to 100. I didn't want to wait that long because it's almost Christmas, as I mentioned, but you can add this, you can add any game, movie, maybe even a TV show if you want. We do have some reasonable requests, please don't recommend us pornography, and don't recommend us anything that's going to be too obscure or difficult or expensive to find. We are on a budget. But really, if you guys want to see a particular game or a particular movie that we want to review, obviously, if it's a game, we're probably just going to play it. But if you want to see something in particular, leave your suggestion. You can comment here. You can comment to our Twitter at Drak and Shadow LP. You can... you probably know where to find us by now if you're watching this. There's resources all over. Follow any of the resources in the description below. I'll see you guys next time. I got some work to do on my own. Thanks.